I would. Thank you so much, Commissioner. This executive committee meeting will be on Zoom via teleconference and held at the California Commission on Disability Access headquarters located at 400 R Street, Suite 312, Sacramento, California at 95811. For Senate Bill 189, the Bagley-Keene teleconferencing restrictions were waived through June 30th, 2023. Therefore, committee members are not required to list their remote locations. However, in accordance with the expiration of Senate Bill 189 teleconferencing provisions, members of the public may participate either by Zoom or by teleconference from any location. Please refer to page 4 regarding the commissioners' listed executive committee meeting locations. This meeting is being captioned and recorded. To assist in this effort, please state your first and last name each time you speak and speak loud and clear. The stream text live captioning link has been included in the chat for your use, and staff can provide the link when asked. Public participants can use the raise hand function to alert the committee of when they would like to speak, and we will also give an opportunity for public members who have called into the meeting, at which time they can unmute themselves. If you are attending this meeting via teleconference, please press *6 on your keypad to unmute or mute yourself. When you would like to alert CCDA, press *9 to telephonically raise your hand and staff will call on you. To use the raise hand function, please follow these steps. Using Zoom via web browser, first click on the icon labeled Reactions in the toolbar on the bottom center of your screen. After clicking Reactions, a new window will show on your screen. Last, at the bottom right of your screen, there will be a button labeled Raise Hand. Using Zoom via mobile device, click on the 3 sideways dots labeled More. The More option is the toolbar on the bottom right corner of the screen. After clicking More, a new window will pop up at the bottom of your screen, and then you may press the Raise Hand. Please remember to mute yourself if you are not speaking in order to reduce noise. If you are having technical issues throughout the meeting and need assistance, please use the chat function to alert CCDA staff or email ccda@dgs.ca.gov. And then I will pass it back to Vice Chair Commissioner Holloway.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie. Okay, let's go to item number 1, which is commission roll call. Stephanie, if you would call roll, please.
Of course. Chair Commissioner Downey. Chair Commissioner Downey. Vice Chair Commissioner Holloway.
Present.
Vice Chair Commissioner Holloway. Sorry.
Present.
Present. All right. Immediate past Chair Commissioner Lemus. Immediate past Chair Commissioner Lemus. Commissioner Dr. L. Hessen.
Present.
All right. Commissioner Lillibridge.
Present.
All right. And Commissioner Dillard.
Present.
All right.
Okay.
Commissioners' attendance has been noted and quorum has been established.
Okay, and we have no members of the public in the audience, so that's the end of item number 1. So let's go to item number 2, which is approval of the April 25th, 23 meeting minutes. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to look at those and review those. And are there any questions of the minutes at this point from either commissioners or any members of the public? None appearing. Then do we have any comments from commissioners present? Okay, how about a motion for approval of the minutes?
Like to move for approval. This is Commissioner Dillard.
Second.
And we have a motion and a second. Let's see if we have any comments about, now that we have a motion from commissioners who may be attending virtually. None appearing. How about executive committee members who are attending in person? None. Any comments from the public attending virtually? None appearing. Comments from members of the public here that aren't any? I'm not even going to bother calling that one in the future today. So we have a motion and a second, and we called the roll. And so did the motion pass?
Stephanie, can you call the roll, please?
Oh, I thought we did.
Stephanie, if you're speaking, you're muted.
Apologies. So with roll, we did establish quorum.
We're voting on the minutes.
Okay, voting on the
Yeah.
minutes. Apologies.
Yeah. We have a motion, a second on the minutes, so we just need to call for the roll.
Okay, so Chair Commissioner Dillard.
Yes.
All right. Commissioner Downey. Commissioner Lemus. Commissioner Holloway.
Aye.
Was that a yes?
Yeah, he said aye. Sorry.
Okay. Commissioner Dr. Alhassan
Aye.
and Commissioner Lillibridge.
Affirmative.
Okay, and with that, the motion passes.
Okay, let's move on to item number 3, which is public issues not on the agenda. Are there any comments on from the public on any issues that are not on the agenda today? So first of all, anybody in the public attending virtually, any comments not on the agenda you'd like to make? Now is the time to do that. Stephanie, do we have anybody virtually with comments?
At this time, no one is raising their hands.
Great. And we have no public members in present. So with no further comment on that item, we'll move on to item number 4, which is our Executive Director report and financial update. And Executive Director Dawson.
Thank you, Vice Chair Commissioner Holloway. Can everyone hear me okay? Stephanie, am I coming through okay?
You are coming through okay.
Great. This is April. I'm the Executive Director. And for those of you who may be new to our commission, I see some new faces in the Zoom. This is the portion of the meeting where the Executive Director gives administrative and financial updates, and I share some highlights of what I've been working on and what the team's working on, and see if there's any questions from the commissioners or the public. So as Stephanie alluded to when she was doing her housekeeping, with the expiration of SB 189 on June 30th, CCDA has gone back to pre-COVID-19 Bagley-Keene guidelines. We are continuing to receive some additional guidance on following Bagley-Keene from the DGS Office of Legal Services, and I'll be updating the committee and the full, I'll be updating the executive committee as well as the full commission at our next wave of meetings. So by the 26th of July, I will have some updated legal guidance as things are changing in this rapidly changing nuanced environment of going back to the pre-COVID-19 Bagley-Keene guidelines. And so as we receive updated guidelines, we will update our operations and procedures accordingly. But as Stephanie alluded to, the main difference is that we've gone back to posting remote locations of commissioners with 10 days notice on the agenda. So that is something that's different from the COVID era of suspending the teleconference guidelines for Bagley-Keene. So we'll be going back to the listing remote locations of commissioners who are attending virtually. And we also have been working with our Independent Living Center partners as well as the Division of the State Architect to provide suitable remote locations for commissioners who are unable to attend virtually, such as those who wouldn't be able to attend virtually from their homes, and provide that as a suitable remote location. So we will be working on that. And as I said, I will update the commission on any updated legal guidelines. I also wanted to share that many commissioners may have been getting emails from our team about submitting some reappointment paperwork or making sure your Form 700 is filled out, and also completing some required trainings. We recently conducted an audit of our internal procedures and found that we needed to improve our tracking of our trainings and Form 700s and our onboarding procedures. And so what we've done is started to create some codifying some of our operating procedures with the executive director and the operations manager coming in at around the same time. Some things got lost in institutional knowledge, which happens with organizations. And so what we're going to do is make sure that we have those written down, those processes, so that if either of us ever leaves, we will be able to pass that knowledge on to the next group of great people. And we also just want everyone to know that please be patient with us, as we hope that by the end of this month, we'll be able to have all of our paperwork and trainings and Form 700, our Form 700 compliance all up to date by the end of this month. So we thank you for your patience as you receive emails from us. And we also, just moving on to commissioner vacancies, we do have a candidate that is moving through the appointments process for the vacant governor appointee seat representing the disability community's interests. That person has not been identified publicly, but that person is moving through the process. All of our reappointments are current, and we still have 2 unfilled positions for our office tech and AGPA. The operations manager and I are going to be meeting this week to make some decisions about those positions so that we can post them. I wanted to just share that I continue my monthly meetings with Chair Downey, and I also have been meeting the last 3 months. I've also met with Vice Chair Holloway, Commissioner Ben Conway, who is the DOJ ex officio on our commission. I've also spoken with Commissioner Dillard and Commissioner Clare. Commissioner Clare and I now have a monthly standing meeting where we talk about DSA and CCDA collaborations. And I also have had a chance to talk with Commissioner Dr. L. Hessen and Commissioner Shapiro, Commissioner Ramirez, and Commissioner Lemus. And if I haven't spoken with you in the last few months, I'll be circling back to touch base with you so that I can, and I'm always happy to set up regular meetings with commissioners. I also gave a presentation to CivicWell, which is a really great organization that educates and brings together city and county officials and talks about things like climate equity and placemaking work. And I spoke about CCDA's working with business access, and they were all very interested in the work that we do. And I also talked a lot about the division of the state architect and CCDA's partnerships related to the Disability Access Education and Revolving Fund. And that was really great information for them. I also have been doing a lot of outreach to Visit California. Visit California reached out to us to talk about how we could utilize shared data to improve services to and technical assistance to lodging facilities in California to improve access to lodging facilities, how we could partner on some of their upcoming trainings. And we also talk with them about how in the future our portal could be a tool for those types of organizations to improve their training for looking out for access issues related to lodging. And I also attended the Certified Access Specialist Institute conference in Elk Grove. And also we gave technical assistance about CCDA to Senator Roth's office, Senator Rosalisi Ochoa Bogue's office, Assemblymember Haney's office, and Senator Nielo's office within the last 3 months. So we've been very busy. That is my administrative update. And let's switch to our financial report. Stephanie, thank you. So I wanted to share that we have third quarter financials. There is on the screen, there is a PowerPoint with an Excel document containing our financial report. I'm going to give a very high level summary. I'll share with you that this was presented to me by our DGS budgets analyst on June 29th of 2023. So there was a third party that was not me that created these financials. I want to turn your attention to our total expenditures. Our total expenditure authority actually went up since the last time I presented financials, and that is because our high frequency litigant fund monies actually increased by $197,000. So in addition to the $152,000 in high frequency litigant funds, we have an additional $197,000 that needs to be spent by June 30th, 2026. So I'll be in touch with the commission about how we're going to integrate those additional funds into the spending plan that was approved in April. So our total expenditures is $1,731,000. Our personnel services is a budget authority is $799,000. That's things like salaries and wages. Year to date, we are at 52% of spending and have spent $415,369 of those dollars. That also includes encumbrances. And encumbrance is just a word that means things that we have pulled back that we expect to spend. It doesn't mean we've spent the money yet, but it's things like obligations, like contracts and things like that. So, and for operating expenditures and equipment, that's things like our copier, external contracts. Year to date with expenditures, it's actually year to date expenditures with encumbrances is $265,954, which is 29% of the budget. And one of the things that I talked with finance about is that our salary spending as well as our general expenses, particularly around external contracts, looks a little bit low for this time than you would expect at the end of the third quarter. So I asked if we could do a deeper dive to just make sure they have all of our invoices and things that we've spent money on. It could also be because some of our contracts ended early, like some of our consulting contracts where we expected to spend more money, as well as there was a couple of points in the year where we did have some positions. We have some cost savings from open positions, as well as switching. We didn't have an executive director for a couple of months, and we also had the two open positions. And so that could also be why the salaries look a little bit low. But I'm going to get back to you by the full commission about why our general expenses appear to be a little bit lower than you would usually see, especially because I see monies coming in and going and knowing we're spending money. So our total year-to-date expenditures, including encumbrances, is $681,323, which is 39% of the budget. So I also wanted to share that we had a wonderful meeting with Mark Doty, who is going to be assisting the division that we are nested in, the ISD division of DGS. And Mark is going to be working one-on-one with CCDA on our financials, and he wants to assist us given the fact that we do not have a finance person on staff at the moment. He's going to help us with things like forecasting and budgeting, and also helping train Phil and I about how within state service we can make sure that we're tracking our contracts properly and making sure that we're keeping up with our financials so that we can have more internal financial robustness and not just depend on DGS, who are wonderful, but not just depend on DGS's budget team, but also have our own internal team as well. So we are continuing to build our capacity with our financials, and Mark is going to help us build our capacity. And that concludes my executive director and financial report. Please let me know if you have any questions or comments.
Okay, do we have any questions or comments from executive director, executive committee members online?
Commissioner Holloway, there are no hands raised or comments in the chat from executive committee members.
And Commissioner Dillard.
Yeah, I just have a quick question to make sure I understand the chart correctly. The last column on the right in orange or yellow, I'm a little colorblind here, but that column, I believe, is to look at a comparison for the end of the year last year.
Yes.
So it's for the end of last year, not this time last year.
It's for you're right. It's not for quarter 3. It's for the year end. So there is a mismatch there.
And no, it's just I just want to understand this. That now to understand, because I know there's a difference in costs, and I was trying to make that comparison, but it is year end. And I also see that there's an increase of roughly $350,000 for the difference between the two budgets, I guess.
Yes, our expenditure authority went up in general from our general fund, as well as the high frequency litigant fund recently went up as well. You're welcome.
Okay, do we have any comments from the public who are visiting with us virtually today?
Commissioner Holloway, there are no hands raised or comments in the chat.
Okay, and we have no public members present. So if there's no further comments on that item, move on to agenda item number 5. Specialties of law firms using CCDA legal portal update and discussion. Executive Director Dawson.
Thank you, Vice Chair Holloway. At our last executive committee meeting, there was a question about the diversity of our legal portal participants, and Stephanie, who is our portal expert on staff, was kind enough to pull some basic numbers. We do not traditionally track these specialties of the law firms that submit to our portal, but the specific question that was raised was how many of the legal firms that submit to our portal focus on disability litigation specifically, and what is the diversity. And so Stephanie was able to go to the websites of the law firms that submit to our portal to answer a few questions. And so I'll give some basic data, but if I need to answer any further questions or drill deeper, I'm happy to get that information for you for a future meeting if I am not aware of it at this meeting. So there were 54 law firms with at least one submission to our portal. 15 of those did not have associated websites, so it was hard to know what their specialties were. Only 3 law firms of the 54 focused exclusively on alleged disability access claims. The rest really ran the gamut from personal injury to civil rights to business. There was some tenant law in there. So there was a wide diversity among the 54 law firms of specialties. So there were very few that focused mainly on disability of the websites we were able to look for and access. So if that, I know that that's very basic high level data. So I am certainly happy to drill down and come back if that question wasn't answered as thoroughly as the committee had hoped, and happy to give more information about the portal as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Executive Director Dawson. Do we have any questions from
Commissioner Holloway, please remember to just be closer to the mic for the captioning purposes.
Okay. Do we have any comments or questions from executive committee members attending virtually on this particular item?
Yes, this is Commissioner El-Hassan. I had made that request and I appreciate that, April. I was just curious to find out, since they are ADA compliance issues, I was wondering the expertise of that. So thank you for those firms.
You're
Thanks.
welcome.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Allison. Okay, any other commissioners attending virtually? Comments or questions?
Commissioner Holloway, at this time, there are no hands raised or comments from executive committee members attending virtually.
Okay, Commissioner Dillard? Not appearing. Okay. Do we have any members of the public attending virtually who have questions or comments on this item?
Commissioner Holloway, at this time, there are no hands raised or comments in the chat from members of the public on this item.
And we have no members of the public with us today. No, if there's no further comments on that particular item, we will move on to item number 6, which is progress on the social media and legislative administrative orders, update and discussion. Executive Director.
Thank you, Vice Chair Commissioner Holloway. Well, I'm going to say I have some exciting news, but I'll keep you in suspense. First, I will talk about the legislative. I have to mix it up a little bit. But I wanted to give an update on our legislative administrative order, and what you have on the screen is a copy of it. My plan when the order is signed and effectuated is I'd like to take the executive committee and the full commission through it. I know at the last executive committee meeting, I talked at a high level about the fact that there was a need to codify in words an agreement between CCDA and DGS, just to talk about, what is our role? As many of you know, our prior to some legislative changes a few years ago, CCDA used to have the ability to advocate for specific bills and take positions on specific legislative bills. And that changed around the time that we came under DGS. And now that we are nested within an executive branch entity, we still have the ability to provide technical assistance to the legislature. In fact, we do have a part of our purview is to educate our government partners locally and statewide about disability access issues. And how that works now is that I as the executive director work with our legislative affairs liaison, who is at this time Karina Roy, who you've met at prior meetings. And anytime we have a request from a legislative member to talk about issues that go beyond just CCDA 101, like what CCDA is and what our purview is, if anytime we talk about pending or future legislation, we do loop in our legislative affairs analyst, which is Karina Roy, and we are able to speak. Her office organizes all of the communication, and then then myself and any key staff go to the meeting with the legislator. So for example, last month we met with Senator Nilo's office, and he had some questions about CCDA and our legal portal. And so how that worked is that Karina's office is who scheduled the meeting. But myself as the executive director and Abigail Ridge, who is our legislative and administrative analyst, attended on behalf of CCDA and explained the questions that the senator had. And so I'm giving that as an example of that's how basically this administrative order just codifies how that works, because there was a lot of confusion before my arrival about what is our role with legislative affairs and how do we coordinate the communication between the legislative affairs and CCDA and the legislature itself. And I checked in with the person who's helping coordinate all the signatures for the administrative order. I've signed off on it on behalf of CCDA, and our branch chief has signed off on it. And we are just waiting for it to go up a few more signatures to the director. And once the director of DGS signs off on it, then that'll be the official process that we go by. But I am really happy that we have been able to have interest from our legislative partners about what CCDA does, and that we've had questions about CCDA and interest from our legislative partners. And I'm really excited that we've been able to do so many legislative visits in the last quarter, either just generally what CCDA does, and then also deeper diving into bills when that's appropriate. So it's great that we're able to provide that technical assistance to the legislature, because that's really one of the reasons that we were created, is to make sure that our government stakeholders, as well as our disability and business stakeholders, could rely on us for up-to-date nonpartisan information. So this will just help facilitate that and codify that. Now for the exciting news. That's also exciting, but the really exciting news is I know that many of the commissioners have been really excited about having us do more social media outreach. And I've been working for the last couple of months with DGS about how we can make that happen. DGS and I have come to a pilot that they're going to be doing a pilot with CCDA where we will be able to have our own social handles. So we'll be able to have our own branding and social handles on Facebook and Instagram and possibly LinkedIn, YouTube possibly as well in the future. We're going to start with Facebook and Instagram and then build on it. We'll still have to have, of course, our posts approved by the Office of Public Affairs, but we are able now to have our own branding. So we'll still be a part of one DGS, and we'll still be able to have our unique work reflect well on DGS, but we'll be able to have our own unique voice as well. So I'm excited about that. It's going to be a 6-month pilot, and then they're going to use us as a model for potentially expanding this to other programs in DGS. So I'm excited that we'll be able to have our own unique voice when we talk to businesses, so that they really understand who we are and clarify any confusion of what we're about. So I'm excited about that. So I will be giving you all updates about how that's going. And once we get officially on there, I hope you all like our posts and spread them around to your stakeholders. Thank you.
Executive Director Dawson, that is pretty exciting. Now that we're on social media, we're real, even though it's virtual. Okay, questions from executive committee members who are attending virtually. Any questions or comments or thoughts?
This is Commissioner O'Hesson. So are we going to, how do you direct us then about when we get the sites? So when we can start sharing, or how does that work in regards to timeline and getting commissioners whatever we need in order to start doing that, start posting or sharing?
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Dr. L. Hesson. I am going to be working on a social media plan that I'm going to be submitting to the Office of Public Affairs this week. And then once they sign off on it, we can start the pilot. And then what we'll do is that Presley, who is our outreach coordinator, will be working with myself and Phil to create the content. We're looking at, creating a lot of content in advance. And I'll also be checking in with commissioners about what's going on in your worlds, things that you think we should share. And then all that can be coordinated through me. And then if you have ideas for what we should share, just send it to me, and then we can submit it to be posted. And either content that could be posted in the future or things that are upcoming that are more time sensitive, we can do both. And then I'll also let commissioners know when things go live so that you can start sharing things.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, any other commissioners attending virtually have any comments or thoughts?
Commissioner Holloway, there's no comments in the chat or hands raised from other executive committee members
Okay,
attending
Commissioner
virtually.
Dillard attending in person. Nothing. Okay. Our guests attending from the public attending virtually, any comments or thoughts or questions?
Commissioner Holloway, at this time, there's no hands raised or comments in the chat from members of the public.
Okay, thank you very much. And we have no public guests attending in person. So there's no other comments on that. Let's move to item number 8, CCDA matter by number 7. bylaws presentation and discussion. Executive Director Dawson.
Thank you, Vice Chair Commissioner Holloway. Well, first I want to start off this bylaw conversation by just thanking our associate governmental program analyst, Abigail Ridge, for working really hard with me on these on the bylaw revision process. Abby was recently promoted from to AGPA from a staff services analyst. So congratulations, Abby. And we are really proud of you. And so this is going to be a really high level conversation. I'm going to just pull back for a second and level set us about this process. And so what I've been mentioning for the last couple of executive committee meetings is that the executive committee, one of your main purviews is to review and update the bylaws as needed every 2 years. So the last deep dive in the bylaws was done in 2021. And now that we're in 2023, we need to update the bylaws again. And so today I'm going to give a high level about where we're at with that and talk about the different sections of the bylaws and some of the things at a high level that need to be changed that staff have identified as changes to put before the executive committee. And then at our October executive committee, we'll send you an actual draft of the bylaws with some track changes incorporating these high level a little more deeper dive about some of these high level things I'll talk about today. And then by January, we would like to have the executive committee at your executive committee meeting in January actually pass the edits to the bylaws. So for those of you who may not be familiar with our bylaws, it has 10 sections. And some of the things that we're going to need to review is, for example, we need to make sure that for our name and authorization section, that we are updating our government code that's listed, the government code that's currently listed in this section, as well as a few other sections are incomplete or are superseded with a new government code since the last time we looked at the bylaws. So we need to make sure that we're reflecting our merger with DGS and putting the correct government code for that. We also need to make sure that we say a little bit more about our purview and our duties. So the bylaws do talk at a high level about what CCDA does, but there's a couple of new things in statutes, such as our annual report and the way that we interact with the legislature that we need to revise in the bylaws to keep it current. We also want to talk more about how we describe who our members are, who appoints them, their terms of office, and a little bit more detail about the difference between, public members and ex officio members, as well as in later sections talking about our committees and public members on our committees as well. We also really need to, in section 4, when talking about officers and duties, making sure that we're specifying what each member of the executive committee does, the chair and the vice chair duties, specifying the immediate past chair's duties, and then also just the officers of our subcommittees. We also want to go into more detail about our executive committee's purpose, because it talks about the executive committee, but really needs to go deeper into our purpose. And also we want to make sure that we're talking more about Bagley, Keene, and Robert's Rules of Order, and going a little bit of a deeper about how exactly CCDA should be running its meetings based on the statutes that we're under. And also just talking about the differences, there's a little bit of confusion between the names that we've been using with standing, ad hoc, and subcommittee. So we're going to be making some nomenclature changes just to align with how we normally speak about our committees and what they do. And also we, for section 8, we really want to talk about more about how we run our commission. Obviously in bylaws, we're not going to go too in the weeds about certain policies, because they can change over time. And if you did that, you'd be changing the bylaws all the time. But we'll be talking about sort of like what our general operating rules are at a bylaw level about things like quorum and Begley Keen and public comment and things like that. And then we're also proposing that we remove section 9 because it just repeats section 6, and also making sure that there is a process for how we want to, it's not really written in the bylaws how we amend the bylaws, and then also just changing the order of things for flow. So we have a lot of kind of a clunky flow right now of our bylaws. So we just want to make sure that we change around some order of how we put our sections together. So what we'll be doing is in the next couple of weeks, it'll be primarily Abby and myself as the staff working on these revisions, and then we'll have the draft presented to you in October. If you feel comfortable voting on the draft, then you can do so. But we don't expect you to take it up as an action item until January, just so you've had at least one meeting to look over the actual revisions. And we'll be able to show you the side-by-side comparison and walk you through the revisions. So please let me know if you have any questions or comments about the bylaws and the process we're going to go through to edit them this year.
Thank you, Executive Director Dawson. Okay, first of all, congratulations to Abby on her promotion. That's very, very cool,
Oh.
well deserved. Comments from the executive committee members on this item. They're attending virtually.
Commissioner Holloway, at this time, there are no hands raised or comments from committee members attending virtually.
Okay, Commissioner Dillard. No comments. Okay. Members of the public attending virtually, any comments or questions on this item?
Commissioner Holloway, at this time, there are no hands raised or comments in the chat from members of the public.
Thank you, Stephanie. Okay, and we have no members of the public attending today. So no further comments on that item. Let's move to item number 8, CCDA responses to Assembly Bill 2917, update and discussion. Executive Director Dawson again.
Thank you, Vice Chair Commissioner Holloway. Good afternoon, everyone. This is April. I'll jump around a little bit, but I wanted to share how CCDA is responding to Assembly Bill 2917, which passed in last session and was chaptered and is a law now. I think in future meetings, we'll be giving you updates at each meeting about how we're doing with how we're complying with that law that was passed. And so up on the screen, there is a picture that says Assembly Bill 2917, FONG, disability access internet websites, parking lots, and exterior passive travel. There's no images. And so I'll just talk a little bit about it. So it actually expanded our purview to include when our legal portal right now, excuse me, I apologize. Let me back up. What this law did was it required CCDA to start collecting alleged disability access violations related to websites. Prior to this law passing, we were only required to do alleged disability access violations related to public accommodations and construction related claims. And now we're collecting website access violations. In the month of June, we sent out a letter to our to the attorneys that submit to our portal. And we educated them on some of the new drop-down menus that are going to be effective in July. So we actually have been complying with this portion of the law since prior to the summer. We have always had a menu that was a very general menu that talked about website access violations, but we've never had detailed drop-downs that could help us collect, what exactly on that website was the alleged violation that was related to accessibility. So we have, over the last couple of months, we have worked with our partners who have helped us build the portal to do some deeper dive so that we could collect better data of what exactly was the website access violation. And for example, was it that it was inaccessible to screen readers, for example? That's just a common example. And so that patch is going to go live in July. And so in June, last month, we started to educate the attorneys about, hey, you're going to start seeing this new drop down. We're also going to be planning some webinars in the future where we're going to have some like drop-in lunch and learns for our legal partners so that they could learn about the legal portal and learn about the new drop downs and learn about how we can work together to collect the data to see what the landscape looks like for alleged disability access violations related to websites. I also want to share with you that we're working on a short document on business access compliance that is moving through. We got some really great feedback at our last commission meeting about our business listing document that's going to educate businesses about kind of just a shorter version of some of the things you can find in our accessible parking campaign work. We got some great feedback from our last commission meeting about that. And so we're hoping to have that done in the fall or so. And we're working with our partners at the Division of the State Architect to align some of our nomenclature with the code language to make sure we're giving accurate information. So once that's done, we can complete our business listing document. Also, in terms of our accessible parking campaign, I know I've shared a lot in recent months about our accessible parking campaign toolkits. So there's 2 toolkits, one for the construction industry and one for business owners and operators. And we have, so I know many of you have heard this, but I want to share for the new voices in the room that we convened for about a year, 2 stakeholder groups for construction and business owners and operators. And then back in December, we submitted the final drafts to up the chain with DGS as well as with the Division of the State Architect. And we got some edits back. And since that time, we've been working internally to incorporate those edits. Right now, the drafts of our toolkits are at RESD, which is the Real Estate Services Division of DGS. We were able to get some interdepartmental services from one of their architects who's also a CASP who agreed to look at our edits and help our stakeholder groups make sure that we can make sure that we maintain the stakeholder voice of the drafts and also make sure that we incorporate those edits. And so due to workload issues, they expect to have that back to me by August, September. And then I will be able to reconvene the stakeholder groups to look at the draft that comes out of the internal review. And then we'll be able to bring, my hope is by the January meeting, we'll be able to bring, well, actually by the October meeting, I hope to have a working draft, if not a final draft of the 2 toolkits. And then by January at the latest, I'd like the commission to vote on approving them. So that's where things were with the toolkits. I'm also going to be turning our attention to another part of the law, which was to make sure that we're educating businesses about website accessibility. And so we're going to be working on some modules and one-pagers about website accessibility in the near future. And I'll share a little bit more detail at our next meeting about how that's shaping up. But we also have been doing a lot of work to our website to make sure that our website is a clearinghouse for information, which it always has been, but we want to make sure that we're also adding sections and information about website accessibility so that our website can continue to be a clearinghouse for information for people who are looking for information on how to make sure their website is accessible. And so we'll be doing some education in the future about that as well. So I'm really looking forward to that. And with that, that concludes our response to AB 2917, and I look forward to your questions or comments.
Thank you, Executive Director Dawson. There was a lot in there.
Sorry.
Commissioner Holloway, please remember to speak into the mic.
Thank you, Executive Director Dawson. Do we have any comments from executive committee members attending virtually on that portion of the agenda?
Hi, thank you, April. It was a great report and very informative. I wanted to ask, is there any way, I'm curious to see what the items are in the drop-down menu. Could you send me a screenshot of that?
Absolutely, we can do that, and I can also at another meeting show you show the full committee the drop downs too. I'll make a note of that, but I can also send that too.
Just curious. So thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other executive committee members attending virtually have any comments?
Commissioner Holloway, at this time, there are no hands raised or comments from other committee members attending virtually.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Dillard?
Yes, I have a thought. I'm just curious in terms of workflow.
Commissioner Dillard, it's a bit hard to hear.
Oh, I have it right at my mouth. Can you hear me better now?
Definitely, thank you.
Yeah, I'll talk a little louder and more deeper as well. Just a question. I was noticing the Assembly bill sponsored by Mike Fong, and it came to mind. I'm trying to see how do these Assembly bills become bills in terms of, are there from recommendations from us? So is it from us bottom up or top down? I'm kind of curious. I know this has probably have happened a long time ago. And I have not seen it done since I've been involved. So I'm kind of curious about it.
Thank you, Commissioner Dillard. That's a great question. So usually what happens is that the legislative partner works with the legislator or legislative staffer will contact the Office of Legislative Affairs and talk about an issue, and then they'll bring that to our attention and say this is within our purview, and then we work with the Office of Legislative Affairs on any pending or future legislation. I do know that for Assembly Bill 2917 that the bill author did work really closely with our office in coordination with Karina at Legislative Affairs and with our staff to create the bill package. I wasn't there for that, but that's my understanding from the team that that's how that happens. So usually we're not, because as a staff member who is nested within a executive branch entity, I can't go to the legislature and recommend pending legislation, but I can talk with them when they come to us about it, or when OLA talks to us and coordinates that kind of a conversation. And then if there's things that come up at the commission level about, hey, this would be a good idea or something like that, then I would talk to Karina about what the process would be for that. So that's how that works.
That's a good point, particularly the last point, because I think sometimes as we go through our town hall meetings and our listening forums, we might hear things from the public that we might want.
Oh, Commissioner
escalate.
Dillard, can you please speak into the microphone?
I think I need to talk louder because it's pretty close. I was indicating that as we have our listening forums and we get more input from the public, we might find things we might want to escalate. So I was kind of curious about that. So it's a very good point. I appreciate the answer.
You're welcome. And I can just add that if those things do come up at the listening forums, we'll be giving a report to the full commission about like the issues that were raised at the listening forum, and then we can figure out within our abilities, how those things can get raised.
And another way that could be is if we hear an interest that we think should move forward through the legislative process, the other option would be, instead of us sponsoring it or going through our normal state governmental channels, is that we could go to some of the ADA advocacy groups and who may have more pull and more financial resources to push legislation through. So that's another way that we could make that happen. Good question. Thank you. Okay. Do we have any members of the public attending virtually that have comments or questions on this particular matter?
Commissioner Holloway, at this time, there are no hands raised or comments from the public in the chat.
Okay, thank you. Okay, no other comments on that item. Let's move on to item number 9, annual report, date and discussion.
I think that's
Executive
it. Thank you, Vice Chair Commissioner Holloway. Well, this will be a brief one. I just wanted to share that our annual report for 2022 has been submitted to DGS for approval, and the Office of Public Affairs reviewed it last week and gave us in the last day or two some edits, and staff is going to work on incorporating those edits. They were mostly grammatical in nature, nothing controversial. And then it will be sent up the DGS chain for signatures, and then will be able to be given to the legislators through that process. And I will mention that at a future executive committee meeting, I would like to take a deeper dive about our annual report, because this annual report, as it was my first time doing this process with CCDA, and also talking with our partners at DGS about what's in the report, there were a couple of ideas and suggestions and thoughts for changes and additions. Particularly, for example, one of them was whether or not we should publicly list the top 10 law firms. Right now, what we've traditionally done is we've assigned them a number, and we've not named them publicly. So there's been questions about whether we should do that. But I think that's a question for the executive committee and not something I should just decide unilaterally. And there were other ideas about formatting and about making sure that we're listing the amount of violations per zip code instead of just listing the top 10 zip codes, and a couple of ideas that we may not incorporate this year, but that will be that we could incorporate if we decide to in the next cycle, because it's almost time to, it seems like when we're finished with one annual report, it's time for the other one. So at a future executive committee meeting, we definitely will want to flesh out some of those bigger issues of how we present ourselves to and our work to the legislature. So I just wanted to share that as put a pin in that, or put a thought in our heads, a thought bubble out there about that. But otherwise, it's moving through the process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, any questions from executive committee members attending virtually on that item?
All right, Commissioner Holloway, there are no hands raised or comments in the chat from executive committee members attending virtually.
Thank you, Stephanie. Commissioner Dillard? Nothing? Okay. Members of the public attending virtually, any comments or questions?
All right, Commissioner Holloway, there are no hands raised or comments in the chat from members of the public attending virtually.
No members of the public attending virtually, in person. Okay, with no other comments on that, let's move to item number 10, which is our listening forums update and discussion.
Thank you, Vice. Sorry, I know my vocal stylings are back. This is Executive Director April Dawson, and I wanted to just talk about how we're doing with our listening forums. And I also wanted to share some takeaways and things that I've been learning from this process. So many of you know, and some of you may not, because I see some new voices on the Zoom, is that prior to COVID, one of the things that CCDA was known for was going around the state and having these listening forums where we brought local government, people with disabilities, and businesses together to talk about disability access compliance to businesses. Because as we all know, that the things that the cases that we collect and the information in our portal, they may look like numbers on a spreadsheet, But, to that business owner or to that person with a disability trying to access a business, or to that, city planner trying to figure out, placemaking that fits their community, it really hits at the local level. And so how can we as state partners go to those communities and help them, recognize their strengths and also see where they could improve on disability access compliance? And how can we as CCDA provide resources such as, technical information and assistance to helping those businesses? And who can we partner with? And how can we basically go to these communities, and not tell them how they should do things in their community? Yes, there's laws, and yes, they need to be followed, such as the Americans with Disabilities Act. And there's a way to do that as a state partner without, telling communities how to be. And so one of the things we want to do is go across the state within the next 3 years and do a lot of listening and a lot of partnership building. And my hope is that through each of these forums, at least one person will meet someone that they didn't know before, or learn a new perspective that maybe they hadn't considered, and think about, what tools they already have in their community that's working, and tools that, answers to their questions about some tools that they could reach out to, and who could help them with that, and how we could help them as CCDA. Because that is our mission, is to work with our stakeholders in government and business and disability to make sure that everybody has access to do the things they want to do, like go to all the businesses they want to go to, just like everyone else. And so our first listening forum, our first post-COVID listening forum, is August 31st from 3 to 5 p.m. at San Jose City Hall. And our partners at the city of San Jose and the county of Santa Clara have been really great at helping us put this forum together. We're going to have ASL as well as captioning, and we also are going to have language translation in Mandarin, Spanish, English, and Vietnamese. And one of the things that I've really learned through this process is that's really humbled me and made me think about how I want to do things here is talking about language access and justice. I think, traditionally, I think that this is not unique to CCDA. I think it's true for a lot of agencies, is that we're really just learning now about, just like, 30 years ago, we were learning about, ramps and, accessible bathrooms. We're also learning that we're in a diverse world. And a lot of the businesses that we serve are people who speak languages other than English, minority communities, people of color, people from other countries who may not have had the ADA where they came from, and they're just trying to figure out the laws. And so how can we be culturally humble and meet them where they are? And how can we do that if we're not diverse ourselves, or if we don't have the tools to speak with them in the language that they're accustomed to? So one of the things that I learned when I was working with our city and county partners to develop this forum is that we need to make sure that our materials, even our registration form, are in languages that can be understood by those who we want to reach out to. And so one of the things that I did was the city and the county were very helpful at, in San Jose and Santa Clara, at helping us with our language translations. And then I also made sure that we went out to bid for a statewide language translation contract, so that in the future, we can make sure that we have a language translation service that can translate all of our documents and flyers, as well as someone who can come to the meetings and interpret for us. And it's also made me think about, wanting to make sure that we have a trusted messenger model to make sure that we're actually reaching out to people in a way that is safe for them and makes sense for them. And so, like, utilizing community partnerships, like people who might trust, they may not want to talk to April from DGS, but maybe they'll talk to their friend Dave. Making up, Dave's not real, but they might want to talk to their friend who speaks their language and runs the coffee shop down the street, may be more likely to talk to them. So I'm learning a lot about how we are going to modernize our engagement, and really excited that our partners have really stepped up to help us with that. So first one is in San Jose, August 31st from 3 to 5. And you can go to our website for signups. Also, last week we sent out the save the date. We're also going to send out some updated information. And we have had some signups so far, so I'm excited about that. The room can hold up to 200 people, I believe. This will be in person only. There is not going to be a virtual option. The reason why there is not going to be a virtual option is that when we did our tech run through, we determined that we couldn't guarantee that that would work. And so with the space that we are going with, and so that's why it's not going to be virtual and in person, but we do plan on having future virtual events with the city of San Jose and the county of Santa Clara. This is really meant as a kickoff, and it's also meant to not just be a one-off, like we're making an investment, and we want this to lead to further discussions that we can have online or in person as well, and build community partnerships. So I'm excited about that. And I know I mentioned that one of the things that I know it's hard to have visibility of is that things do take a while to get contracted at the state. And so I had been holding off on making firm plans for other communities until I had the language access and the captioning and the ASL in place. But I had a conversation with our contracts unit about that the other day, and they encouraged me to start doing more outreach to communities again, now that we have more of an idea of how to structure those contracts to ensure that we have equal access to those forums. And so my hope is that we'll be able to, at the next meeting, I'll be able to tell you about some forums that are happening in 2024. And I'll conclude by saying that at the April full commission meeting, the full commission voted that we could use our high frequency litigant funds to put on these forums with different topics for the next 3 years. And so this will be not just a one-off thing, and we can continue to do these and be diverse about the topics and reach out to different communities with our resources. So really looking forward to the engagement. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Dawson. Good report. And for those of you who have not attended a listening forum, they are incredibly informative, entertaining, fun, really great events. And so I hope that we can encourage all of our commissioners to attend those, as well as our public stakeholders and friends and advocates. So hopefully we'll have a great turnout in San Jose. One thing I did want to mention is we're just about to take comments, is one thing we might think about doing is videoing the listening forum, because it might be something that as we go through and do more of those, they might be interesting chapters in our YouTube channel or our Facebook posts, things like that. So might be opportunities for ongoing learning by videoing those. So, let's see if there are any comments from commissioners attending virtually.
Commissioner Holloway, at this time, there are no hands raised from or chat comments in the chat from commissioners attending virtually.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Dillard.
I would just like to ditto that. I'm excited about this. It sounds fantastic. I have not had the pleasure to attend one past, but I do look forward to the future of attending one. And so I expect great things from this. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and any members of the public attending virtually, comments or thoughts?
Commissioner Holloway, at this time, there are no hands raised or comments in the chat from members of the public.
Okay, and we have no public members in person. So let's move on to item number 11. That'll be the full commission meeting update and discussion item.
Thank you, Vice Chair Commissioner Holloway. This is April. And I just wanted to remind everyone that our full commission meeting is on July 26th here in Sacramento at our Sacramento offices, 400 R Street, Suite 312, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Many of you have been in contact with Presley or other staff members to coordinate your travel. Commissioner Downey did want me to indicate that he would love to see the majority of commissioners present. And so staff have been working really hard on travel. This is I think the most in-person attendance. We're expecting the most in-person attendance since I've started, and obviously I started while COVID was still going on and COVID continuing to go on, but we're expecting a full house. And we are also, as I mentioned, I will be giving updates about Bagley Keene, but for the July full commission meeting, we're gonna make sure that we are complying with Bagley Keene, which means that if you are planning to attend the meeting virtually, to let staff know by the deadline about where you're going to be, so we can make those arrangements. The Division of the State Architect has Commissioner Claire has been kind enough to open the LA field office so that we're providing that as a remote location. And we also have a couple of ILC partners, which stands for Independent Living Center Partners, who've offered to assist as well. But so far it's looking like the majority of the commissioners will be in person for that day. So it's July 26th, which is also the 33rd anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. So at that full commission meeting, we'll be talking about the Americans with Disabilities Act and how that interacts with all of our work, how things have changed in 33 years, how things have been the same, how we can move forward together as a commission in responding to, how the ADA has meshed with the times, particularly like with website access and such, now that the world is different than it was when I was in 3rd grade. We also are going to be having a conversation with Ida Claire and Mehdi Shiab, who is a wonderful partner of ours from the city of San Diego, as well as Andrew Smothers from the Division of the State Architect, talking about our disability access education and revolving fund. So we're going to be highlighting some communities that have utilized the fund for the betterment of access. And Ida and Andrew are going to talk about just the scaffolding of the fund and what it means. And then also CCDA staff will talk about how we've been increasing the outreach for communities to learn about the fund. We're also going to have Bill Zelmer, who's another great community partner, talking about healthcare facilities. So even though healthcare is not a specific purview of CCDA, sometimes healthcare facilities can be considered Title III entities, which does fall under CCDA's purview. And I know at the last full commission meeting, there was a strong desire for a follow-up presentation because there were some concerns raised about access to doctors' offices and equal access to medical care. And the majority of the commission wanted to hear something about that. So Bill's going to come and talk about his role in the ADA coordinator world with healthcare facilities and talk a little bit about what, if anything, CCDA can do to help with that. So that's the high level of what's going on at the full commission meeting. And just again, please just keep in touch with Presley about your travel plans. And if anything changes, let us know as soon as possible, since it does take a lot of staff effort to make these meetings happen. And looking forward to seeing everyone in Sacramento on July 26th. We also will still have a Zoom option for public participation as well. Thank you.
Director Dawson, sounds like it's going to be a fun and full and informative full board meeting and well attended. Okay. Any comments from executive committee members attending virtually?
Commissioner Holloway, at this time, there are no hands raised or comments from members attending virtually.
Thank you, Stephanie. Commissioner Dillard, nothing? Okay. Public members attending virtually, comments, suggestions, thoughts?
Commissioner Holloway, there are no hands raised or comments from the public at this time.
Okay, and we have no public members present again. Okay, let's move on to item number 12, future agenda items. So the question on this one is, does anyone attending have any future agenda items they would like to suggest? So let's start with the executive committee members attending virtually. Any future agenda item suggestions?
Commissioner, oh,
Yes, I'm sorry. This is Commissioner El Hassan. And I was wondering in regards to future agenda items, if we can look at specifically supporting businesses who are getting, or how can we best support businesses who are getting these drive-by lawsuits? I've had local businesses in Bellflower reach out to me, and not quite sure how to respond.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good question. Good suggestion. Okay, any other commissioners attending virtually? Any future
Commissioner
agenda
Holloway,
items?
there's no hands raised or comments in the chat from members attending virtually.
Thank you. Commissioner Dillard. Oh, you have to turn your mic.
Yes, thank you. I might have mentioned this before, I'm not sure. But I do know that we focus on business, which is good. But I know that we also have a kind of a boom with development in general. And most of that development is in housing. And particularly homelessness. And I'm just curious in terms of this might not be in our lane here, but I'm curious because of so much housing that is needed, and also the approach to this housing as it relates to ADA and other needs. And this might go up under GSA. I'm not sure, but I'm just curious in terms of us maybe having some type of someone to make a presentation to present to us how this is being addressed in terms of the inclusion of building of all this housing.
Okay, good idea. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, any other commissioners, any other executive committee members attending for, oh, no, you're the only one. Never mind. Okay, public. Public members attending virtually, any comments or suggested future agenda items?
Commissioner Holloway, there are no hands raised or comments in the chat from members of the public on this item.
Thank you. Okay, and we have no public members here. Okay, let's see. Oh, reminder, we have our full commission meeting on Wednesday, the 26th at 10 to 4 p.m. and held here at CCDA World Headquarters. So be sure and keep that on your calendar. Okay, do we, unless there's any other discussion, do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'd like to make a motion.
Thank you. We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Littlebridge. And I don't believe we need a roll call. Do you want to do roll call for that? Okay, we do. Okay. Stephanie, would you do roll call for the adjournment, please?
Thank you, Commissioner Holloway. I will start. Commissioner Dillard,
Yes.
Commissioner El Hassan,
Yes, thank you.
Commissioner Lemus, Commissioner Downey, Commissioner Lillibridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Lillibridge.
Yes.
Okay, I think I heard that. So yes. And then Commissioner Holloway,
Aye.
Commissioner Holloway.
Aye.
All right, thank you. All right, and then the motion to adjourn has passed.
Okay. Thank you,
you.
everybody.